Hi, it's David at Art of David Smith. So this week, on the request of my son, we are going to do Raven from Fortnite. So I've got the basic head here and I've wireframed out the kind of pose that I wanted. So kind of using a bit of inspiration from here. I started thinking about having the fingers like this, but I'm intending to do crossed pistols. So I'm going to plough on with this because it's going to be quite a time consuming one. So obviously with Raven from Fortnite, he's got this big hood, so I've kind of blocked in where the head is going to roughly go, and then I put this, I suppose, like a diamond shape around it. It's kind of to accentuate how or illustrate how the hood, what he's got, uh, folds around the face and things. So I'm going to have him kind of leaning a little bit forward, so the top of the hood is going to drop in somewhere around this kind of area. So at the moment I'm just really going to fire in various guidelines. So I get a feel for the overall size. Now, one of the things you can do is you could put balls onto the elbows and onto the shoulders if that's how you want to do it. But what I find is if I go with the wireframe, when I start throwing in the arm, as long as the wire, if you like, runs through, it's like the central bone, I suppose. So the central bone's running through the arm. Now I've got some bits and bobs, some printouts of various game artwork for me to follow. Although my son's an avid player of Fortnite and I watch him playing it, I've no idea what they call all the characters and things like that. So I just got a little bit of inspiration. Didn't want to do the same poses as the existing stuff. I wanted to try and do a bit more of a my take on the Raven character. So we've got what would be his right arm will be crossing over the left. He's got this kind of a, I don't know if it's like a computer type thing on there or whatever, it's some sort of pouch on his arm. But so his shoulders, if we're running them right round, probably going to be something in this kind of region. So again, this would be like I suppose the collarbones running through the actual body, but it just gives it an idea of placing things. So when I'm drawing something like this for the first time, they're often quite messy affairs as I'm changing things on the fly. Well, that's good, it gives you a feel for the character, but also you start to also see if there's something not quite right. So yesterday when I had a practice run at this, I ended up having to get my lad to do the pose for me so I could see how the arms crossed. So obviously if you can get your hands on a model to help you out at times, then do so. It's if you can't get them to stand there for long enough, just take a quick photograph, but have the reference there to just draw from the mind is it's very difficult. I know artists can do it, but I can't. I get reference from all over the place, whether that's via the internet or have various family members posing for me. And like I say, if they're not going to be there for a while, you just get a photograph or something like that so you can refer to it. So there's finger pointing up, because what we're going to have is the guns. I mean, you've probably seen this pose 1,000 times, so kind of have the guns this kind of setup. So again, I'll rough in roughly how the hands, or the area the hands are going to drop, and then as I start to tighten the drawing up, I will then go in and start refining those areas, because a lot of the things which he's got on him as a character as well, he's got all these kind of feathers around him, as well as his neckerchief and things like that, but they're all going to interact with how the guns are sitting across his body. So I decided to do this with the cross guns. Obviously the whole point of the game is trying to take each other out, so I want a bit of a pose. So again, like on the other side, and have the pistols, and again, in regards to reference, kind of winging it with the guns, what I would probably do in all seriousness is download some sort of schematics of a real pistols or something like that, elevational drawings, so I've got some reference to obviously put in there then, so it's accurate. But for this stage, for roughing it out, it's quite easy. Just got them roughly where I'm going to have them posed. So I'm going to look at this neckerchief. I'm going to drop, and again with material like this, look at how material folds over when it's bunched together like this, so when it's wrapped around the neck. And if you use some real reference, something like that, even if it's a sheet or a scarf that you've got kicking around at home, look how the folds drop. Incorporate those into your drawings and it will look all the better for it. There are natural ways cloth drops and unnatural ways that they're sometimes drawn, so you have to be careful with stuff like that. Obviously I'm not drawing the full body, so under here, if I was drawing it out, colouring it, I'd probably just graduate all this into shade, so we start having reduced detail and things like that. So it tends to carry some sort of backpack. So we've got the kind of the strapping, the webbing going round, and then his jacket we're going to have some sort of fastening type thing. So again, just putting those details in loosely for the moment, and then as I start the clean up, I'm going to start knocking out lines like this these guidelines that I put in initially for the wireframe. Whip those out. And obviously this one across his shoulders as well will come out. So carry on with this kind of ripped material, what he's got over his shoulders. And then obviously as I'm as well finishing this off, I will start going in, putting more detail into these, really rag up the edges of this material and bring a bit more life into it, have them try and convey a bit of movement. Again, around the arms, he's got this strapping, so we'll throw some of that in as well for the moment. And we can, when we go in again refining, we can give these a little bit more presence, a little bit of thickness to them by ridging them up. And by doing that and throwing in shadows and things like that into these areas, we start bringing the whole picture then to life, giving it some real body. So one of the last features, what we've got with this guy in this stage anyway, he's got these bizarre feather type things around the neck. Don't ask me why, I just got asked to draw the picture, but as a picture goes, as a character goes, really great one to have a crack at. Now personally, although this is my son's favourite, two of my favourites have been Blackheart the Pirate. Really like that, and all the various versions you could get of him. And Sergeant Winter. I just thought that were a great character. Not sure of the season, but I don't think he's in there now. But yeah, great. Loved that character with all the tattoos all over the body, and so may well, if this video goes down well, may well have a crack at Sergeant Winter or the Pirate. But if there's something that you'd like me to cover, something to break it down, and with all these videos it is about breaking it down into more manageable bite-sized pieces. If you ask most people who are new to drawing, right, have a crack at drawing Raven, you're going to look at your blank piece of paper and think, where do I start? So the whole point of all these videos is to try and break it down into some sort of bite-sized portions so it doesn't look quite as intimidating, and it gives you a crack at drawing something a little bit different, something maybe out of your comfort zone. And you never know, you may well really like the results. So you can see it's coming together now, and there is a lot of cleaning up to do on this character, but the essence is getting there. The only thing now, I've got the cowl here, so using this line, what I kind of wanted him doing is leaning a little bit further forward, so we're going to accentuate that in the eyes as well. Kind of giving the old hard stare. Now if I do take this forward into colour, then it'll obviously bring it to life as well, because with this character and the glowing eyes, I'll be able to have a real play in this, really bring that area to life when you start introducing the colour and the glow effects, which you can do either via pencils or on the computer. Now, at this point, I would, as we've seen on other videos, start cleaning up, or I would take it to the light box and take a direct tracing off it. But for the purposes of this, what I'll do is I'll start adding a little bit of shade and some detail into this. Now, one of the things on his cowl is it does tend to be slightly ripped in areas, so we can draw attention to those with how we shade them. Also, we can give them a little bit of thickness as well by putting an edge around this thing. Another one of the details has often got these like large stitches, so we can again draw attention to those, put them in nice and bold, but when the other, like the thickness of the material and then sewing details and things like that, you can really go to town on the detailing of characters like this. So depending on if you want to keep it quite simplistic or hyper detailed, once you've got this base, you can play with it. You can take a tracing off of this one, have a go, really simplify the versions. So very simple feather shapes, very simple cowl, or you can then take another line drawing off of it and up the detail, really go to town on it. And that's really why I wanted to do my take on him as well, as a character, rather than just follow the generic artwork which the Fortnite producers has obviously put out there, and fan art and things like that. But I wanted to do my take on it, what I would do, what I would change, and you can do that with, once you've got the base drawing, you can really go to town on that kind of thing. Now, one of the other things in here is obviously his face is completely blacked out. So I'm not going to spend all the time blacking this area out. But by doing just a quick shade into this area, we can start giving it a little bit of form, convey some atmosphere with the start of the drawing. And as we come underneath the cowl, can thicken some of these lines up, start picking up some of the shade from underneath, because we're obviously going to have the light source coming down on this, real atmosphere. So as the hood hangs over this neckerchief, you're going to have to start pulling some of these shadows down as well. This hooded area would, because it's hanging over the neckerchief at this point, there's going to be a certain amount of shade underneath them. But kind of fire it in. If you're not happy, erase those lines out, or take another drawing off of it. I'm a great believer in the light box. You've gone through all the hard work of drawing this picture, so if you need to take another line drawing off of that to save you redrawing it all out again, then do it. There's nothing quite so discouraging as having to redraw something out because you've dropped a line in the wrong place. So yeah, if using a light box or put it up against the window helps, then do it, go for it. So just like with underneath the hood, as we move into these areas, there's going to be a certain amount of darkness. Remember as well on the edge, we need some light, just kind of picking up on the edges of this as well, just to give that a bit of solidity, a little 3D-ness. And because the light's coming down, you're going to have these stretched shadows of this material hanging over the top of the material of the sleeves. So again, draw attention to that when we get into the hand area. We can quite loose with those details really. Everything's going to be focusing on the face and the guns, so when we get into these areas we can make them slightly woolly, we can play with the detail a little bit elsewhere, we don't have to. So if you're not really confident with drawing hands or something like that, when you've got a pose like this, you can really just simplify those areas and don't worry about it. But at some point you are going to have to draw the hands, so again it's another exercise. Get somebody to pose the hands for you, or even pose them yourselves, take a photograph and draw away, because the more you do it, the more confident you'll get. Same with everything. So again, because that arm is crossing the other one, there's going to be a lot more shadow cast off of this one onto the arm underneath. So we take those details, and again, if I was drawing it properly, I would have a piece of paper over here at the moment, so I'm not running my hand over this area. But obviously if I do that while I'm filming, I'm going to obscure your picture, so you're not going to see as much of it. So when you're doing this yourself, make sure you've got your scrap piece of paper for you to rest on, so you're not mucking up the whites of your paper. And knock out some of these guides now as well. Now this central one, I'm going to retain that in, just play with it a little bit, and maybe even intimate some of the stitch work. Bit of detail onto there as well, and even we can put a few marks in. There's often holes in his hood and things like that, so we can really play with those bits, those elements. One last thing before we finish, if we go into these feathers, you can really, for want of a better word, feather them up, depending on how you do your lines. So with feathers, you've got that central stem through them, but you can take your lines from there and drag them up. And by doing that type of effect, you really give them that feather type feeling, that look. And this one's tucked behind this, so I'll pick out a little bit of shadow on there. So take your central stem up, and then from that centre flick your lines up the feather, and then you can also do a few of them in reverse for a little bit of the detail in. Seem to get these splits in feathers, which when you brush them all disappear again, but just gives that real feathery type look to it. And again, this one is covering over this one, so we're going to add a bit more shade into there. Okay, so you can take that round when you're doing all the feathers. That kind of technique really build the presence. If you build them up, then when you bring them round to this area over the shoulders, remember underneath here, a really dark pencil for this point, but as you go on to the shoulders, you're going to have these feathers really casting quite dark shadows over the top of the shoulders. So just remember that, because we've got that light source coming down onto it. So remember, underneath here, underneath the hood, underneath, again underneath here, and underneath the arms, that's where the heaviest areas of shadow are going to be. And then I'm going to have the light source, the paler colours and everything else on the tops. So again, when you're shading this thing, remember to spend a bit extra time, special care on those areas, but really go to town on it. But thanks again for watching. If you do have any suggestions of any other Fortnite characters that you would like me to cover, please leave the comments in the box. Hopefully you've enjoyed that video, so thank you to my son for that one, for giving us a new theme to run with. But I will catch you on the next video. Don't forget to subscribe and leave me a like. Cheers, bye bye.